Yo, what's good? It's Mr. Look, y'all, it's no secret that 2023, this year, has been absolutely insane in terms of all these amazing quality new releases dropping. I was talking, we've been getting so many great new games, just banger after banger, right? But as you look forward to the future, I wanted to make a video going over my most anticipated games for next year, 2024. Quick disclaimer, only games that have a release date set for 2024 or ones that I believe are at least extremely likely to release in the upcoming year are gonna make this list. So if you're wondering or commenting, where's this game? Where's that game? This game should be on the list, you know, that's probably why, right? And also, I don't have every single upcoming game on my radar as there's just too many. So that could be why as well. With the exception of the first game I'm gonna go over, these aren't in any particular order. So with that out the way, let's jump into this list. First up, the game I'm probably most excited for is Dragon's Dogma 2. I'm a big fan of high fantasy and RPGs, have been for a long time since I was young, playing that first Dragon Age Origins game, right? Just ever since then, I've fallen in love with these kinds of games, and that includes the first Dragon's Dogma. So this game right here is a no-brainer for me, right? Seemingly checking off all the boxes. From what we've seen so far, the trailers have shown off some really dope stuff, including over-the-top, high-octane action RPG combat that this series is known for, with deep character and party customization seemingly having more depth to it than the first game in the series, right? It has some cool stuff going on with the pawns. You can customize them even further now. They can be specialized into certain traits and abilities that only they have when compared to other pawns. Some really cool stuff there. Plus, it has an interesting looking story and world surrounding this whole false arisen plot, right? Can't wait to see where they go with this and just to get my hands on it come early 2024. Just sign me up. Now let's talk about Helldivers 2, another game which I'm actually really hyped for. The first one I enjoyed a lot. It was a very tactical alien shooter where you had to coordinate really well with your teammates. There was so much going on at any given moment. You had various loadouts you could bring to the fight, and it's one of those games that makes me go, I don't know how people played this without voice comms. I know you didn't have to, get on the mic and talk with people to play, but I just like would make it 10 times harder. But the sequel here just seems to be bigger and better in every way, with me personally digging its new perspective, having it breathe a lot of life into this game. It went from, top down to now third person. Looks great so far, and can't wait to get my hands on this one. Next up, I got Little Nightmares 3. I love the first two and consider them genuinely creepy horror games, with the trailer for this one showing us it'll be just as, if not more creepy. Every time one of these Little Nightmare games have come out, they've been kind of a special event for, my wife and I. We get on the couch together, bring down all the lights, get a bunch of snacks and popcorn, and we kind of treat them as movie experiences. So they've been kind of special to us in our household, but this time around, thanks to co-op, it seems like we're actually going to get to play this one together. So I can't wait to see how the story and lore expands to this one and actually dive into this game with her this time around instead of her just kind of being a spectator. It'll be really fun. And I'm not going to spend too long on this one, but quick shout out to Sega as they announced like 5 new games they got coming. So out of the new Jet Set Radio, Shinobi, Golden Axe, Streets of Rage, and Crazy Taxi, it feels pretty safe to bet that at least one of those drops next year in 2024 if they are treating them as separate releases, right? And honestly, it could be any 5 of those, as the originals are all certified bangers. So if Sega can bring back some of that old school Sega magic with just a new coat of paint, they're gonna be successful. They're gonna be hits. Next up, I'm actually really excited to see Multiversus make its return in 2024, despite that potentially not being the most popular opinion. I know. Look, this game exploded in terms of popularity when it first released in open beta. It was massively successful. Everyone was playing it, loving the game, had a huge player count, right? And then its issues arose and people were dissatisfied with the game. And the devs came out and said, look, the game is in a state we're not happy with. We're actually going to take it out of beta, take it offline, and kind of slink into the darkness there and do another full re-release in the coming year, right? And look, issues with the rate at which content was rolled out and other issues aside, I do genuinely think Multiversus was an excellent platform fighter that stood on its own thanks to its IPs and excellent kit design for its roster of diverse characters. I feel like way too many new platform fighters that come out try too hard to be Melee. They try to bring mechanics in from Smash Bros and Melee, but Multiversus was truly doing its own thing, and it was very fun for that. You add that to its great monetization being free to play, but it's still having, great monetization even outside of that. And I think it was an excellent game that I'm personally really excited to see come back bigger and better than ever for 2024. Windblown won me over instantly with its art style and humor during a trailer we got to see during the Game Awards. On offer, it's got fast-paced combat, different character fighting styles, and seemingly dope multiplayer. Even if that multiplayer, if played with friends, does seem like it kind of might test your friendships a little bit, right? Just given the nature of this game, the roguelike aspects to it, just kind of dying is expected, repeatedly a lot. But nevertheless, I'm really excited to get my hands on this one, even if it does seem to be just early access for 2024. I doubt that we're going to get early access and the full release of the game all in 2024. I hope we do, but that seems unlikely. But nevertheless, just early access alone, based on kind of the comedy the game has going for it and the combat, seems like it could be really fun. Next up, I got Black Myth Wukong. This game was selling me off of its enemy/creature design alone. I'm telling you, during the trailer for this thing, yeah, the combat and story stuff was there, but I was more so, entranced just by the enemy design, the character design, the creature design. I was like, wow, these designs are just incredible. I can't wait to learn the mythos and lore meaning behind just why they look the way that they do. I mean, seriously, I want to play this game just so I can see them all, and if there's an art book on sale for this title, I've got to copy it. But of course, that's not all to this. It looks like it's going to have incredible action combat as well. By the look of things, Wukong is just flipping and doing all sorts of crazy attacks all over the place with really impressive mobility. Enemies seem to have this, these area sweeping attacks. Seems like it's going to be really fun. And it wasn't on my radar before until this trailer, so I'm excited for it. So Granblue Fantasy Relink is like the anime action RPG, all right? Like, I've been wanting to get into Granblue Fantasy for a while now, but have been waiting for this game's release to do so. There is the fighting game Granblue Fantasy Versus, but I'm not really that into traditional 2D fighters. Nevertheless, every time we see this game from like trailers or previews, it's just over the top anime high fantasy combat, all right? With an absolutely beautiful looking fantasy world to explore. The only thing this game could really do to pull me in further is if it was one of those RPGs where you make your own character. Still, nevertheless, I'm really hyped to try it. It's been a long time coming, but it's almost finally here for those of us that are fans of high fantasy and fans of anime. Now let's talk about Tales of Kenzera Zao. This game right here seems really interesting to me, which is saying a lot because 2D side scrollers as a genre really isn't a favorite of mine. Of course, like everyone else, I played these games a lot when I was a kid, but as I got into my teenage years, I kind of just fell out of interest with them. But this game's story theme really hits home for me. Seems to be about, the relationship between a father and his son, dealing with themes of loss and grief and just acceptance throughout that whole process. Really up my alley story-wise. Now, the switching between fire and ice constantly in combat also seems really dope. Seems like going to be a lot of expression and style to combat within, the 2D side-scrolling aspect of things, and just overall, it has great designs, getting heavy. Obviously, there's an African vibe, but also kind of reminds me of the fictional nation of Wakanda as well. So overall, the entire package, I'm really digging it. It's pulling me in, so I'm excited to give this one a try. I've been very interested in Banishers Ghost of New Eden ever since it was first revealed, however long ago that was. I really like the premise it's putting forward surrounding this pair of lovers who are Banishers, of course, that being hunters who are responsible for taking out malevolent spirits and the like, that end up separated when one of them somehow ends up becoming a spirit themselves, becoming like the very thing that they hunt. They then embark on a journey to reunite. I'm really into how dynamic the fights are looking here, with them switching back and forth mid-combat for some awesome looking combos. There also seems to be a good amount of choice involved, where there's certain spirits or enemies, not sure what it is, that you have the choice of either sparing or sacrificing. So not sure what that's about, but it'll likely have an impact on the story. So it's giving me heavy Dante's Inferno vibes here, which is a game I really enjoyed. So I'm down to see that element here as well. I feel like this game is going to end up being a sleeper hit in 2024 for sure. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is next on my list, and Do I really need to say anything here? Come on, we all know that the first part of Final Fantasy VII Remake was incredibly good in like all aspects. However, I do know that there's some people that wanted the story of the original to be untouched, and from the first part of the Final Fantasy VII Remake, that's very much not the case. They did change a few things. However, I'm actually really excited to see what changes end up being made plot-wise. From everything we've seen in the trailers, story looks good and interesting, right? It's that Final Fantasy VII story, but now we're all on the edge of our seat to see, okay, what changes end up happening. But outside of that, gameplay looks phenomenal. The world just looks incredibly expansive. The game looks just outright gorgeous. So of course, me alongside everybody else in the world that's a gamer is really looking forward to and highly anticipating Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. This next one really isn't even a game yet, but it's my list, so I'm gonna say that, quote, whatever Capcom has planned for Resident Evil in 2024, end quote, is next on the list. Now, I'm unsure if we'll be getting an entirely new entry in the series, you know, the next mainline Resident Evil game, that being Resident Evil 9 coming after Village, or if instead we're going to be getting another remake next year of like Code Veronica or Resident Evil 5. But given RE's success in general as of late, it feels pretty safe to bet that Capcom has something planned to release for the IP in 2024. You know, Resident Evil has just been absolutely insane quality wise lately. Even before the remakes, you know, survival horror is one of my favorite genres, and Resident Evil is one of my favorite gaming series. But ever since like Resident Evil 2 remake, they've been killing it. RE3 remake is what it was, but even though it was short, it was still good. 2 remake was phenomenal, and then with the amount of time and care they got to put into 4 remake, that one was just incredible. And even Village, while I'm not the biggest fan of first-person survival horror, I still really liked Village as well, right? And the DLC for the game being in third person makes me hopeful that even if it is a new mainline title, we'll at least have the option for third person. But nevertheless, Resident Evil games in general have been amazing lately, so I'm really excited to get another title, hopefully in 2024. And lastly, to sneak it in, I gotta at least mention Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. Metal Gear Solid is another one of my favorite gaming series of all time, but we've heard nothing on this remake's release date so far. However, 2024 is the 20th year anniversary for Snake Eater, so it feels decently likely that Konami is targeting that date at the very least, right? Like I feel like I could bet money on that, a little bit of money on that. However, I will say I'm a little bit nervous about this one, right? As it's a Metal Gear Solid game without Hideo Kojima at the helm. But, you know, I'm a really big fan of the Metal Gear Solid games. I'm not really that big a fan of Death Stranding at all. So maybe I'm just not a fan of Hideo Kojima in general. I'm just a fan of Hideo Kojima when he's, you know, in charge of Metal Gear Solid games, but who knows? I mean, the DNA, Metal Gear Solid 3 exists already. It's there. The DNA is all there. So they can't really mess this up, right? Like the solid gameplay, the story, everything's already done. They just gotta put a nice new color paint on this. So Konami can't really mess this up, right? Like they've got this, right? And those are my most anticipated games for 2024. That's my list, y'all. What games are you most hyped to get your hands on in 2024? Be sure to let me know. As like I said, I don't have every game on my radar, so I'm always looking for more recommendations, more games to keep my eyes on, right? As always, I'm Instora. I hope y'all have enjoyed this video. Y'all be easy. Catch you on the next one. Peace.